Whitlow rolling right on a keeper, up across the 15, cuts left at the 20, on the room at the 30, headed to the near sideline, one man to beat, makes the move at midfield, coming to the near side at the 30, he's at the 20, he's at the 10, 5, touchdown Kentucky!
And welcome in to Believe in Kentucky. We get our intro for our QB, Jalen Whitlow. He's not here this evening, but we got Aaron Gershon, as always, from the Cat's Paws. My name is Vinny Hardy, and we have a UK pillar. Everybody knows her from UK Sports Network, the pregame show with Jeremy Jarman, Dusty Bonner. Christy Thomas is here this evening. Christy, how are you? And thank you for hopping on here with us tonight.
Oh, well, thanks for having me. I'm a little beat down. I mean, we were talking about that before we started recording this thing. I'm a little beat down, but I'm always hopeful. I'm the eternal UK football optimist. It's the bane of my existence, actually.
You got to be with this program sometimes.
Yeah, that's what, I'm one of those that are like, well, how many games are they going to win this year? And I'm like, do you really want me to tell you? SEC in Atlanta, baby. I'm like, it's happening.
That's it. And we're licking wounds, like we talked about, going into the bye. One became two, and just like we talked about before, the way it started, we thought, okay, we're getting this Georgia taste out of our mouth. We're jumping on Missouri, and it just, you mentioned that you're on the field, Aaron. You were in the press box.
Yeah,
Christy, how helpless was it? The second, third, and fourth quarters, just to see it just slip away.
It was awful. I mean, and I think it felt that way. Really, the first of the game is always really busy for me because I'm coming in from pregame radio, and I sort of rush in and I grab the cards and go through who I'm introducing and what I'm going to be doing. And there's always more introductions in the first quarter of the game than there are any other time. And so, usually sometimes I just miss things. And so even that first drive, I was trying to be in tune with what they were doing, and I listened to the crowd, and then I'll turn and look and see what's going on. And I was so reassured by that first drive and that first score. I thought this is really what we had to have. We had to get on the board first, and we had to look good doing it. It needed to be a really long, sustained drive, which is what it was. Lots of good things happening, and mixing it up. The offense looked great. The running game was on point, and so I thought this is all right. This is good. So that first quarter, the crowd was great. I mean, I thought everything was really going well, and I'm telling you, it was that fake punt call from Missouri that they scored on was, first of all, I thought it was a really gutsy call. It was the right call, obviously, since they scored. But I just thought it was so gutsy at that point in the game, and really something that was Missouri needed something. Our defense was really was handling them in that first quarter. And so I just thought that was something they really needed, and boy, did they get it. And you could absolutely feel the life just get sucked out of the crowd at Commonwealth. And listen to me, I just said Commonwealth.
It's a one and the same.
It was one of those things that literally was, you just sort of, you felt it, you saw it, it was horrible. And then you thought, well, we'll see what this team's made of, because this offense is good. And they really weren't clicking just yet. And they just couldn't recover from that. And so I feel like more of what we've seen out of them in these two losses has been more mental than anything. And I think that's what bothers me the most about it, really, is just this whole idea that it's these mental issues that they just, I'm looking for some team. I'm looking for some leadership. I'm looking for some player-led things to help them get past that kind of stuff, because there's only so much coaches can do in that regard.
That's right.
Yeah.
And AG, as we all heard on the coach's show, they had a meeting with themselves. So you talk about some player-led things that may come from that. We'll see on the 28th.
Yeah, they got to figure something out. I mean, and obviously the penalties it's unreal. It was, 14 for 122? And with some of the drops in there, that took, I think it ended up being more penalty yards than passing yards. So just an embarrassing stat. But for me, like that game covering it, this is what I think year 6 for me on this beat. So not that long, but long enough where I've seen a lot of games. And this was like one of the more shocking ones, not because they lost. I mean, Missouri's having a really good season, and
Sure, yeah.
they're a much improved team from where they were at even a year ago. But from the fact that they jump out to that fast start where all three phases, special teams didn't have to do much, but at least offensively and defensively, everything went right. Like Christy, you were saying, they have a long scoring drive on the touchdown. They started the game with a 3-and-out where they just,
Yes.
I don't even remember if Missouri gained a yard. I mean, I know Deion Walker had a sack, I think, and that one, or TFL or something. It looked, and then the pick for Maxwell Harrison, you drive down, you score again. It's like, okay, like they're going to do what they did to Florida.
Yeah.
And two, the one thing in this game, I thought Devin Leary played pretty damn well. He had the 2 picks late, but that's desperation time. You're doing too much, but the drops by Anthony Brown, Steven, pick on him too much as a freshman, but those 2 plays could change the game. And it was shocking in the fact too that Luther Burton, who comes into this game leading America in receiving yards, second in catches, 2 catches for 15 yards. You shut down. Brady Cook, season low passing yard. Cody Schrader, the running back, who's the second in the SEC behind Ray Davis in rushing yards, lowest average yards per carry this season, and you still lose by 17. I mean, it was just a shocking result for it to all those good things to happen, you still get beat down. So this is going to be a tough one to recover from. It's good that there's a bye week. So, you see what Mark Stoops said with the players only stuff. Hopefully that works. He sounded pretty upbeat at practice today. So maybe that's a good sign that, they're having a pretty good week. He's usually he has struggled hiding his emotions. You can pretty much tell. Feeling. Because I remember going into the Georgia game, he was very quiet that week. There wasn't much pep in his step during the press conferences. It was like, okay, he might know something's up. And I thought last week he was kind of in between, and it kind of resulted in exactly that, because they did put some good things on tape, but did a lot of bad. And then this week, he seems to have a good pep in his step. So maybe they'll figure some things out this week, change some things up schematically. But that was as tough of a loss from high and low and all the different emotions that I've covered in these last 6 years here.
I think some perspective that we got from him about that Georgia loss the following Monday in his press conference was that he was not pleased with their week of prep at all. And so, we talked about that on our pregame show on Countdown to Kickoff, where it is mundane. Dusty and Jeremy talked about that week in and week out, doing the same thing every single week as you get ready, for a game is very mundane, and sometimes it's boring, and all these things, which I think goes back to the mental prep that we're talking about. It goes back to all that you've got to figure out how to stay locked in. You've got to figure out how to stay, you as players know this is coming. You know what this is about. You hit week 6 and you're like, ugh, here we go again, kind of thing. And, we talked about that. If you played anything, you know that practice is a drag. You know that those things, really start to wear you down in a lot of ways, but you also know how important it is to get you ready for that game. And so he obviously was disappointed in their prep for Georgia, where you had the exact opposite, listening to how Georgia prepped for the week with Kirby Smart browbeating them to death about how they're not very, Kentucky's better than you. So, that's where I say the player-led stuff has to come in. And that's why I adore them for having a player-only meeting.
Yeah.
I played ball at Campbellsville University. And we used to do the same kind of thing, right? I mean, things aren't going well, and you're trying to figure it out, and you're frustrated, and everybody gets frustrated. You sort of bicker, and you're fighting with each other, and sometimes you have to just clear the air. You have to have that moment where everybody says whatever it is they want to say, they get it off their chest, and then you can kind of wipe the slate clean and move on. And to that end, if that's what this team can get done in order to salvage this, so that it's, we talked about that as well too. 1 turns into 2, turns into 3, turns into a disappointing season. And to start out 5-0, I mean, you just can't have that happen. And Mitch talked about that last week, Mitch Barnhart, on our show as well too, saying, we're beyond, or we should be beyond just getting ourselves to 6 games so that we can qualify for a bowl. We're beyond that. So, and I agree with him that, we're for 1 minute, we're talking about playing for first place in the SEC East, to now talking about, can we even salvage this season? And that's just too much of a swing you're messing with my emotions is what you're doing. You're playing with me. I cannot take it.
No, I think you make a really good point too about the frustration. And Mark Stoops said today and I agree with him 100%, by the way. He said, I don't think this is a selfish team. I agree. I think the penalty, and because when you have all these penalties, especially, I don't know how many unsportsmanlikes it was on Saturday. I think it was 4 or 5. It was unacceptable, but I don't think they're selfish penalties. I think they're frustration penalties. They're hitting guys late because they get knocked back on some of these plays. Like the defensive line has played awesome. Outside of the Georgia game, I thought they even played well in this one against Missouri. I mean, look at Schrader's rushing yards. They weren't good compared to the rest of the season. And there's frustration when those results aren't happening, and they're taking it out on their opponents. And the problem with that is you're giving them 15 yards. And really, the story of this game, again, I went through all the stats on Mizzou. The reason you lost this game outside of the self-inflicted, outside of penalties, is the field position, and part of that is the penalties. The punting was terrible, but Missouri had their 3 top things not working for them, but you gave them a short enough field where they were able to do other things to find the end zone and have success. And that it comes off as selfish, but I really think these guys knew, hey, like we're doing a lot of the things right. We're holding them down. Their offense has been this juggernaut all year. They're not having success, and we're still not getting results. So let's go cry about it and take it out on them. And that's kind of what happened. And so I think maybe this players only meeting where you can kind of call some things out, say, hey, like, I get it. Like we're playing pretty well, but we're not getting results. At least I thought they did a lot of good things in the Missouri game and kind of killed themselves more so than Missouri killed them. Maybe you have that conversation and can kind of get back on track. I mean, there's just got to be some sort of accountability. It can't all come from the coaches. It has to come from within. And I think I will say this from talking to these guys now, since the spring, this group is much more accountable, much more mature than the one we saw last year. I won't name names, but there wasn't a lack of accountability I sensed last year. I don't see that. I don't see that when I talk to these guys. So, we'll see how this meeting does and how it translates.
Yeah. And, you mentioned the penalties, and as far as the Zion Childers thing, the second guy always gets caught. So,
and you just can't
he threw the ball at you.
Yeah,
he baited you. You took the bait. So it doesn't matter that he threw it. Well, he threw it first. They didn't see that. They saw you react. Yeah. I saw Jack Pilgrim, I think, talking about. So it's okay for him to do it. It's a tradition as old as time. If Christy, you play, and look, I didn't say it in the intro, Aaron. Christy is a certified hooper.
Oh no, I know.
She's a Hall of Famer. I should have said all that.
I worked next to Dick Gabriel every day for 3 years. I know it all.
Absolutely.
That's my guy.
But
mine too. I love him.
Somebody subtly elbows you, Christy, and then you haul off and you demonstratively. You're the one teed up, and you're the one like what that. So that's classic. Zion took the bait.
100%. And you know what happens too then is the second person that, if someone elbows me and I elbow them back. My dad was a football coach too, and he used to actually preach this. I used to hear him talk about this in practice all the time. And he would say it in huddle, in the huddle at games. He coached at Campbellsville University. He was defensive coordinator down there. And he would say, if somebody, let's put on an acting job. Let's do it. Right. And so you see those guys that flop and they fall. It works.
Look at Tayshawn Manning, or was it Tayshawn Manning last year? Oh,
100%.
That was awesome.
Works.
It's awesome when it happens to the other team.
It works. Yeah. So if I'm going to elbow somebody, next thing you know, they're going to lay out like I've just, cut their leg off. And it always, you just can't. You just can't. And I think that's the thing too. The penalties are something that I think are mind-blowing for me. And I think it's just because I want this team to be more disciplined than that. And I agree with you, Aaron. I do think it's this level of frustration that is, they're just trying to figure it out, and they just want to do well and they want to play well. There's no doubt. Yeah. But when I looked at the penalties in the Georgia game, that was almost even. That was almost a wash in terms of stats, the number of penalties they had, the number of penalty yards. And so I'm thinking to myself, why did it feel so much worse for us? Right.
Because Georgia's really good.
Because Georgia was kicking our butt. But I think it felt so much worse because I felt like our penalties were at the absolute worst possible time.
Absolutely.
And they were such a draining type of thing. I mean,
Absolutely.
So there's never a good time to get a penalty, but at the same time, there's also a really horrible time to get a penalty, So it's
and that's been a trend all year, not just the Georgia game. You go back to the Akron game, even. I know that they were going to win it, but Anthony Brown-Stephens, you hit him over the top, you get that 64-yard touchdown, and all of a sudden, if that play counts, you have the confidence is growing with Devin Leary, the confidence is growing for that kid. Holding takes it back. Like, that has been an issue all season.
Awful. It's just that really set the tone, honestly. I mean, for kind of how this thing was going to go, but yeah. So but I do admire them for the players only. I mean, that's another thing, Vinny, we've all been there, and done that and realized that that's going to be, the best case scenario for us to try to turn things around and figure some things out. And there are times you want to talk about things together that you don't want your coaches to hear and that you don't need your coaches in on. And that's part of it for me is, in the Lynn Bowden days, Lynn Bowden was that guy that you're like, if there's anyone who's going to will us to a win and will refuse to let us lose, it's that guy. I'll put my money on that guy every day of the week. And I don't feel that from anybody on this team. I think there are a lot of guys, to your point, that are very unselfish. But you're looking for someone who's like, I'm the dog, give it to me, let's go. I'm the alpha and the one who is willing to sort of take that on and will your team to a win. Yeah. And I'm not sure who that is for this team,
I think my opinion, it's Deion Walker, but the problem is he plays a position where that's not it's not gonna be like the impact of a Lynn Bowden or an impact that maybe Devin Leary could make for the quarterback position.
It could be Ray Davis.
It could be.
The ball enough.
He didn't get the ball a lot, and
the game wasn't out of reach to abandon the run.
But I'll tell you what, they started loading the box, and Kentucky, you got to throw, you got to capitalize, I think some of that too. You got to look at that. This is my two things with the coaching. The only gripes I have is one, just quickly to wrap up the penalties with guys. When you have guys in positions like Khalil Saunders, for example, he had the two penalties in one play on the 2-point conversion that ends up giving them another chance, and they get it. He was losing his mind about something else like 2 plays before that. Get him off the field, calm him down. You have bodies at D-line. I get like if Barryon Brown has one of those, you can't take him out because you don't have depth there. But you have depth at the D-line. Like Khalil Saunders shouldn't have been on the field for that to happen. But the other thing is, I agree, Vinny. Obviously, they went away from him. You could get them involved. Throwing him the ball, do other things, but
spring game.
But you look at Devin Leary's success at North Carolina State, and where he thrived is in the intermediate passing game, like 10 to 19 yards. He was money, one of the best quarterbacks in the ACC every year he started, if not the best in that category. And this year they've taken a lot of shots. They're not working. It's 7 games in. Maybe you're just not going to be the offense that can chuck it like Tennessee did last year. And that's okay. And you look at early in this football game, they're throwing short to Deme Sumo Karanjabe and getting him involved. Dane Key had a play over the middle of the field. One got called back because of a stupid penalty, but the other they succeeded on. There were plays where it was like, okay, like that's where Devin Leary thrives, and he was having success. The play to Jordan Dingle that set up the touchdown to Anthony Brown-Stephens a few plays later. Like they were doing things that I think clicked for Devin Leary. And I think that it's taken a little too long for Liam Cohen and the offensive coaching staff to kind of make that adjustment. The wide receivers, I think Dane Key's played a lot better the last couple of weeks, but Barryon Brown's having a tough year. He's banged up. Tavion Robinson's hurt right now. He's playing through stuff. Like you need to make that adjustment and know what you're working with, and whether that's running the ball more and finding ways to, get around those loaded boxes, or just throwing it shorter, make Devin Leary comfortable. And I think, Mark Stoops said today, without giving up too much away, that they are looking at some schematical changes, and I'm hoping that's what he means. I just think sometimes like it's 7 games like that. The one that kills me, and I think it's been talked about a lot, is you take the lead 14-0. You can kind of have a slow drive, and maybe even if you score a field goal, you're up 3 possessions. First play of that drive, they try a kill shot to Barryon Brown and misses by like 4 yards. That play hasn't worked all year. Like, don't do it there. Like you're trying to bury them. You don't have to do it in one play. You can chew some clock and really hurt them, and you get the ball at half. And it's like, what are we doing here? And, then they go 3 and out. They get the ball. Missouri gets the ball back, and that next drive is the fake punt. And then the next drive, you're behind the chains on 3rd and 9. You throw a bullet to Anthony Brown-Stephens, he drops it. Like it just feels like the adjustments on the offensive side of the coaching, which is hard to believe with how well Liam Cohen did here 2 years ago. It's been a little too slow for my liking to kind of adapt to what you've got. And I think that's hurt this team.
I would totally agree. And that's the thing, that the word that Dusty Bonner, who I think, by the way, is one of the more underrated quarterbacks who ever played at Kentucky, that the word that he uses all the time, and he says, I know you'll get tired of hearing it, but it's true, is rhythm.
Yes.
A quarterback loves nothing more than a rhythm. And he was like, even if your first, completion is you gain 0 yards, I don't care. It was complete. Everybody caught it. We're good. Okay, now. And he said, and then you really do start to settle into a rhythm. And he said, that's what it's all about for a quarterback, is getting into a rhythm. And to your point, Aaron, they just have never been I don't think Devin has ever had the opportunity to kind of get into that rhythm. We saw that happen with Missouri's offense.
Yes.
I said methodically, it was like, oh, well, here they go. Yeah, it just boom, 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 boom as they marched their way down the field, even though they had great field position. But they just marched their way down the field.
They made the adjustment because Luther Burden wasn't, Kentucky did a great job on him. They said, screw it. We'll throw it to Weiss. We'll throw it to Schrader. They found different ways.
Yeah. I've said and I talked an awful lot in commercial breaks, actually, with Dusty and Jeremy about the lack of targets for our tight ends.
It's ridiculous.
And it is really mind-blowing. And listen, I get it. These guys are excellent blockers. They're big, strong guys that know what they're doing. They have high IQs. I love all that. But I've said, to your point, if you want to get into that intermediate game, why would you not involve these guys who have just shown you that they can catch passes? Jordan Dingle had a huge fumble, right? I mean, a big 40-some yards.
It's still a 59-yard play.
But I'm like, but I'll forgive him for that. I will absolutely forgive him for that. So I just am really, it is mind-blowing that they've got the talent that they have in that room, and they just have not utilized it. To your point, exactly, that maybe if your wide receivers aren't catching the ball, your tight ends will. So
and with the tight end, every time they've gotten the ball this year, they like Brendan Bates, both of his catches were 15 and 16 yards. Dingle makes that the play we just talked about, and even Mark Stoops wasn't too mad about that fumble because his intention he was trying to tuck that ball. The defender made a hell of a play from after tip your cap. And then in this game, he sets them up, for that touchdown on that 31-yard play. And then Josh Caddis says, I think 3 catches and 2 of them were touchdowns. Like every time those guys have touched the ball, good things have happened. And Isaiah Cummings hasn't even caught a pass yet. I can't believe we're game 7 after last year when he didn't have the year he wanted, maybe didn't get along with Rich Scangarillo, whatever happened. He didn't have the year he wanted. When I don't know if Christy, if you were at the open practice in August, the fan day practice, I thought he was one of the best players on the field. Like offense, defense, I thought he was playing as good as anybody. And I cannot believe we're going into game 8 and he doesn't have a catch. His first touch was last week on a run. Like that is, to me, that's inexcusable. Like there's ways to get those guys the ball.
It's funny too that y'all mentioned Tennessee. Of course, they'll be coming in here, week after next. I was listening to a station out of Birmingham, I think it was McElroy and Kublik, Cole and Greg. But they had former Vol on Jason Swain, who played, receiver for them. Mm-hmm. And Tennessee's offense isn't doing what it did last year. And they ask him, why. And he says, because, they had like 7 points in the second half against A&M and a punt got them going and
the punt
gave them the lead. And he said, well, when we throw it to them, they drop it. And when they're open, Joe's not very accurate. Or when they do hit a play, there's protection issues. You can carbon copy everything he said. And we're saying the same thing up here. And they're mad down here outside Knoxville about the same things. They're not catching passes. Right. Joe's not accurate. When you do hit a pass, you get holding or you got protection issues or something. So they're down there with the same conundrum as we are fussing about it here in Kentucky. Crazy.
But Vinny, one thing that they're doing that Kentucky needs to do is they're adjusting. If you look at their rushing offense, they're number 6 in the country.
They're running
they remind me a lot of Ole Miss last year, where Ole Miss in 2021 was this, with Matt Corral. They're throwing the ball all over the yard, and I think they had the number 1 passing offense in the country. And then the next year, with Jackson Dart settling into the SEC, it didn't really work out. All right, we'll just run the damn ball. And they ended up with an amazing rushing offense. And that's kind of what Tennessee's doing. And I think with Kentucky, I'm not saying they need to become ground and pound like we saw for years, but I'm just saying they need to adjust to their strengths like Tennessee has, or even Alabama a little bit has found a little bit of a rhythm on offense because they're realizing, okay, our success is going to be rolling Joe Milton out and taking those occasional shots. And Joe Milton's an excellent down the field passer, and that's what's working for him as opposed to those intermediate games. So it's a game of adjustments. It really is. And just feels like Kentucky's late on those adjustments compared to everyone else.
Oh, never mind the fact that you've got a midseason All-American back there in the backfield.
Yeah, that too. Like you could run more too.
Right.
Give them 25 touches a game. Like there's no reason.
And
the other running backs ain't bad either.
Yeah, well, you mentioned that, Vinny, too. Like, where did that go? Why are you not giving this guy?
Right.
You're like, okay, look, nothing's working in the past. We're just give this. Hand the ball to him every snap.
And Aaron, you said, well, Missouri loaded the box. You think Tennessee doesn't get heavy boxes?
Right.
So absolutely, no, you're not wrong. And
look at the boxes. Look at the boxes Lynn Bowden got. Everybody knew he was running.
Yeah, and you can run out, and you can run outside zone. You can. I mean, look, one of their longest plays. Every game, it feels like, as they run an end around to one of the receivers. Like Barryon Brown has struggled to catch the ball, but one thing he's done well is the end around. So mix those in. You just
I got fired up about that one. I'll be honest, because that was coming right at me and on my end. I was like, "Oh, look at us!"
Yeah,
I was like, "What?"
I mean, the first quarter, Liam Cohn, I thought, called his best game of the year, and a lot of that too, Vinny, to your point, was because they were running that thing. And Devin Leary was even taking off and making plays on the ground. So yeah, you got to play to your strengths, and it just feels like Kentucky has not done that, which is to me is outrageous. Like, why?
Yeah, you're like, what is all of a sudden somebody just flipped the switch off and everybody's like, nah, and just quit. It was bizarre. Yeah. It was really bizarre.
And you got to execute too, because as much as of a struggle as everything was, I feel Liam called a good game too, because he was probably like, what do I do? What
I thought the Georgia game he called even better.
Nothing's working.
Yeah.
And to still go up 21-20 after the life got sucked out and after you could feel it slipping away, I felt he was kind of really, really digging deep into his bag to find something.
Yeah, I thought he called a great game at Georgia, and that was more execution. I mean, the 3rd and 16 play, the first guy, there were so many well-designed plays that didn't work. But this game, I thought he was in his bag the first quarter. That one drive you mentioned there, Vinny, was a really good, well-designed drive. But there's just been too much of like trying these deep passes and just praying it works. And the only game it ever worked was Vanderbilt, and that's because Vanderbilt's defensive backfield's terrible and hurt. So that's the only reason it worked. So it just, I don't get it. Like, I even thought in some games late last year when Kentucky finally realized, okay, our offensive line's a problem, we got to just figure out a way. They put the ball in Will Levis's hands, like at the Missouri game, and he made plays. Against Louisville, he made plays. Like, they figured out what worked for them by the end of the year. And, hopefully, I think Liam Cohn's a better offensive coordinator than Rich Scangarello, and he's smart enough to figure that out. And I'm thinking with Mark Stoops' comment today about the schematic change, like maybe we're thinking the same thing, and we'll finally see something different next weekend.
How different do y'all think the depth chart may or may not be with just bye week to self-scout and evaluate and all that?
Let me tell you what I hope I see on the depth chart in 2 weeks is Kenneth Horsey back on the thing. I'm like, that
it was good to get him back.
That dude back. I mean, I'm like, every week I'm thinking, please let this be the week. Please let this be the one. And but so my hope would be is that a guy like that is healthy and can get back on there in a big way. So I don't know. I feel like if some changes hadn't been made up to this point in big key positions, that it's not going to be. So I don't anticipate seeing anything wacky, to be honest with you.
I think
you don't at wide receiver. You just don't have the bodies to shake anything up. Unfortunately, like, you lost 6 guys in the transfer portal, where only really one of them is making an impact elsewhere, and that's Chris Lewis. But still, you lost 6 guys. Mark Stoops was asked about Shamar Porter, the 4-star from Nashville, on his radio show Monday, and it didn't seem like he's kind of ready for a role yet. So I think the guys are who they are in the receiver room, and that would be the room that probably needs the most personnel change, and it's not going to happen. So I don't know how much you can do from a personnel standpoint, but I don't want to keep saying it, but you definitely can from a schematic standpoint.
Well, and you know what? So here's the thing that, and I understand my thought is you're like, okay, we've got some real deep threats, right? I mean, you've got a guy like Dane Key who's got great size and great hands. And then you got a guy like Barron who just is a playmaker and all that kind of stuff. So my thing is I trust these guys in that intermediate game to get yards after catch. I trust these guys to get yards after contact. I trust these guys to have the speed to turn an 8-yard catch into a 22-yard gain, right? I mean, I trust these guys to do that. So I think that's where maybe I don't really fully understand the game plan when I'm like, I get it. We're trying to go 40 yards downfield to make the big explosive play. But I trust those guys to do more of that intermediate game and then turn it into an explosive play because they can. I mean, they're athletes. They can do. They're fast. My God, Barron is wicked fast. So my thought is like, and this is like when you're a shooter and you cannot hit anything from the foul line. It's like a baseball player who's struggling to hit the baseball. What do? You go back to the tee. If you're a basketball player, what do? You're like, okay, nothing's hitting from the outside. I'm going to bring it into the paint. I'm going to shoot. Like this is what you do. So these guys are struggling to catch the ball. Why not just go into that short intermediate game and give them an opportunity to gain back some confidence? Leary gets confidence. They get confidence. The offensive line gets confidence. Everybody, this builds for everybody. And then, I trust those guys to be able to go make something happen. And even if you just picked up 5 yards on first down, that's
my gosh. Yeah. Yeah, they're living in third and long. I think their average third down play is like 3-7 something. So it's just ridiculous. And I mean, Dane Key, like the middle of the field routes, those curls or whatever he's running in the middle of the field, he's getting open and making plays the last couple of weeks.
I love that dude there. I love that guy there. Yeah,
leave him there. And Barron, like I did ask Mark Stoops about Barron today because I'm curious with all these injuries. The one thing I've noticed with him, and I think they did make a little bit of an effort in the Missouri game to hit him on those short passes. He's not making guys miss this year, and I am a little concerned as that injury. And Stoops was like, I'm not going to make excuses, but he's banged up. So I'm thinking that might have something to do with it. But Tavion Robinson, he's not as fast as Barron, but he's not that far off. Like, try it with him. You just got to get the
guy. He's a big, strong guy. Yeah.
You don't need to make that big play. And honestly, the way Mark Stoops likes to win games is kill the clock. So why are you trying to limit your possession? Just run the ball, get that defense tired. It worked perfectly against Florida. I'm not suggesting you want to have 69 passing yards again, but 20 passes and how many ever rushing yards like that right now, as you get this offense back on track, like that's fine. And you know what? Tennessee, we'll get to them later, I guess, next week, but they're a really stout run defense and great pass rush. You're going to have to throw the ball. And you have to throw the ball somehow. And I just think it's going to be more so in the intermediate game than deep shots.
I agree.
I like the fact that they go to Tuscaloosa before they come to Lexington.
That helps.
That's in our favor. Yeah. Physical game at Alabama and then come play a rested physical Kentucky team. I like that part of the schedule.
Yeah, they played a cupcake game the week before last year. Tennessee did, and Kentucky to bye. Though Kentucky, they got to win after a bye. They haven't done it. When's the last time they won? I know they won after the bye in 2019 against Arkansas. It was an early bye that year. I can't remember the last time they've won after a bye since. So I'm sure Mark Stoops has looked into that a lot and is trying to figure that one out.
Mm-hmm. He gets asked about that a lot, So
he hates that question, but you know what? We're gonna keep asking until we figure it out.
There's a lot of questions he hates.
Yeah, there are.
Absolutely, and just you got to get like a signature. That'll shut it up. We talked about it the other day because the stat about
winning cures
beating SEC teams that hadn't had a winning record, or when you go out and beat a Tennessee when they're good. They might not be as good as last year, but they're still gonna be solid. That'll quiet a lot of that stuff down. And
every time they beat Tennessee, it quiets things down. I mean, because Tennessee's been beating them when Tennessee's bad. So if you get this win,
that's part of the problem, right? I mean, there's always been that one game. So this is Mark Stoops' 11th year. There's always been that one game that you're like, well, we just laid a big fat egg right there. And I don't even consider that to be the Georgia game. I know we got beat.
I think it's the Mizzou game. Yeah.
But I don't even consider that. That's why I'm like, I'm ready for that year that we get over laying the egg.
Yeah.
That, there is no egg.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's going to get even harder with the scheduling because next year that schedule is brutal.
That makes me nauseous. I'll be honest.
Yeah.
That's a tough one, especially the way Texas is kind of turning things on. So.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna pivot real quick because Chris, you already mentioned that your dad was a football coach. I've talked with you before, and if I remember right, you said that you were like his little linebacker that he didn't have. You pretty much
hard. I was his only child, so
yeah.
yeah.
You're supposed to be the boy. You were his little linebacker. So
Yeah.
considering all the linebackers that Kentucky's had some good linebackers come through here over the years. Dan Trevathan, Wesley Woodyard, you name it. Which linebacker jumps out at you the most? Whose game do you like the best? If you were a linebacker, who would you have been? If you could be your dad's linebacker.
Yeah, right. And well, that's a loaded question. I'll tell you what probably is reminiscent of the kind of basketball player that I was, whose game kind of I would say sort of mirrors each other. If he were to be a girl playing basketball, might be like me, and vice versa. It's probably Wesley Woodyard, and I think just from a standpoint of Wesley was a very vocal leader. I was as well too. Wesley was that fiery kind of player. I was that as well too. Wesley was the guy that would kind of sacrifice whatever it was. Like I'm the one taking charges and diving into the bleachers to get loose balls and that kind of thing. And part of that is because a lot like Wesley, I was not the tallest or the strongest or the most athletic. So I knew that in a lot of ways, me playing hard and playing with passion and with heart was going to make up for some of that. And I feel like that was Wesley as well, too, even though, I know Wesley played professional ball, but you know what I'm saying? So I think Wesley was built differently than somebody like a Danny Trevathan or, whatever. So, so I'd say probably Wesley. And I think that's it. I just, I liked his demeanor on the field. I liked how he sort of commanded a presence in the huddle, with these guys and was, we've all heard the stats about him being a captain and even that even went with him into the league. And, there's really some level of respect that players have for you when they will continue to do that and they continue to want you in a leadership role, because a lot of times people can get a little tone deaf to that and they kind of, they get tired of listening to you and they get tired of, but that never happened with him. So he was doing it the right way. So, and then I loved his dynamic with Rich Brooks and I thought that was cool. And I loved those guys. So, yeah, that's a great question, Vinny, but I'd have to say Wesley.
That's good stuff. I knew I got to ask her about that just because, you were your dad's football player. He wanted
never was.
Yeah, for sure. I had something else too, but I can't think of it now. I was talking to Van House too, and we talked about Brady Cook and how Kentucky slowed him down. Kind of, they gave him basically the A.J. Swan treatment. A.J. Swan was on fire coming into the Kentucky game, and he completes like 40% of his passes against Kentucky. They slowed Cook down the same way. But he was talking, he does the cut-ups and he does all the breakdowns on social media and everything. And he's really big into the play before the play. Everybody's talking about the fake punt and all that. But he was looking at contain being broken on the play before that allows Cook to run for 25 yards and puts them in position to go for the fake punt. There's so many play before the play things that's gotten Kentucky in trouble this year that, you look back, this is what led to this. That's just been a gut punch. And there's been a whole lot of that this season.
Well, a lot of those have been penalties.
Well,
I mean, like for real. But I mean, you do forget about the plays like Cook. And actually, it's funny. I asked Stoops that question about Cook. I know the rushing yards, sack yards are taken into that, but his rushing numbers are down from a year ago. But he's a mobile guy. He hurt them on the ground last year. And I asked Stoops about kind of some of because he talked about how he didn't like that Graham Mertz was able to move the front of the pocket and make some things happen. Either it was finding receivers late or whatever. So I asked him about that, and it ended up playing itself into fruition. So, I think that's been there. The defense I'm still not that worried about. I know the last two games from a points perspective aren't great, but the things that you do worry about always, it seems like with UK, is limiting quarterbacks in the pocket. And that was a huge play that they were able to do that. But like you said, play before the play. On the fake punt too, it just kills me. They knew it was coming because they were in punt safe.
Listen, and I'm in the end zone screaming, "Turn around!"
Oh, everyone upstairs, because they have, I know it was pretty windy. It was pretty windy, but they weren't kicking into the wind. It was like they usually would try their, Mevis is one of the better kickers in the country from deep.
Yeah, right.
It was kind of like, why are they not trying him? It's like, oh, they're gonna fake this, and that's what they did.
Wake
And
up.
then we get, you get your guy gets mossed, basically.
Yeah, he got pushed, but
yeah.
you got to still make a
But
play.
Yeah.
Phillips had a rough night.
they're not gonna call that, And he was right on the line. If he had really extended, but he was just giving just enough little.
Yep.
I'm a Cowboys fan. He gave him the little Michael Irvin push off, the little subtle, That's what he did.
Yep.
And
that's what he did.
And the punter threw a dime, man.
Oh my gosh!
There's no doubt. I'm like, that was so perfect. Everything about it for them was perfect. And I think too, it was one of those deals. I was impressed with Brady Cook just from a standpoint of what I think from a mental perspective, what Kentucky did to him their first couple of drives, and I thought, oh, okay. So then to be able to kind of withstand that, and to your point, Aaron, make adjustments, obviously with your coaching staff and help from your OCs and that kind of thing, but you made adjustments. But for him, he really started to get into that rhythm and made it look easy. I thought in a lot of ways, there were several scores that I thought, well, of course they're going to score here. I mean, they just made it look easy. And so, I think that goes back to that rhythm. And, if something's not working, can you make the adjustment? And then can you find it? Can you find that rhythm that will now get us going and really start to build some momentum when it just got snatched right out from it. I mean, they never had momentum, period, until I felt like that fake punt. And then you're like, well, here we, and then it was just downhill. And they had the mental capacity to get over that. We did not. And so that's concerning. I mean, I think that's the biggest thing is, come up with it, tweak the game plan, the scheme, all that kind of stuff. But then you've also got to figure out how to stay more disciplined, but then also mentally and emotionally, how to plug back into this thing to understand, that there's a level of focus you have to have that's going to have to be elevated in order for this thing to be to get back on the right track.
Yeah. On the broadcast, Cole Kublik was on the sideline and he talked to Drink. And Drink gave him basically, we just got to do what we can. We got to survive the first quarter. And it sounds coach speakish because they had taken a bunch of haymakers and nothing was going right, but they survived the first quarter and then they got their legs under them. And then we know, the rest is history, but that's what you said. They had the mental ability to adjust and all that stuff. That's what he told him. We got to survive this first quarter. And then they went out and they went to work after that.
And Kentucky hasn't done that all year. I mean, the first two games, I know they started a little slow against Ball State. Ball State's 1-6. Like they were going to come back, and then EKU, like that game, they had a harder time getting back into it, and they get blessed with the mistake on special teams, punting to Barryon Brown with a short field already, and they were able to kind of get momentum. Every other game, they've either started fast and buried the opponents, like Vandy and Florida and Akron, or they have just not responded from adversity. And so they gotta look. Tennessee is not like, if you get down early against Tennessee, or if you give up a lead and you're down at halftime, like you can't give up on the game. I don't have it in front of me, but Eli Cox had a really good quote after the game about how some of these guys just need to realize it's a 4-quarter game. Nothing is won in the first quarter. And you talked about there being some growing pains there. So hopefully some of those words turn into actions, and they got to find a way. They have Mark Stoops said it all offseason. He hated the way that last year's team responded to adversity. And so far this year's team's not doing that much better yet.
Well, that oftentimes in basketball that, you think about a basketball game being a 40-minute game, and the men's game still plays, 2 20-minute halves, where the women's game has gone to 4 10-minute quarters.
I like that so much better.
It is awesome. The men's game is missing.
I agree. 1,000%.
It's really great. It's great. And I still cross my fingers that they'll adopt that.
Me too. Me too.
But that's always broken down. I mean, like, so even if you are playing a 20-minute half, you're talking about let's win the first 4 minutes, right? Let's get and everybody's trying to get to the first media timeout. Let's win this period of time. And they do that, so for women, it's at the 5-minute mark. So you're halfway through the first quarter. So you're trying to win, you're breaking it down in smaller increments and saying, let's win this. So I love what Drinkwitz was saying, which is,
absolutely.
So you lost the first quarter. Let's win the next 3. And guess what? We win the game. So
they did.
The math,
35-7.
like that adds up. So
it
makes sense. Yeah.
And I had a thought too. Shoot. Well, let's go. You mentioned basketball, so let's switch. And if I get my thought back, I guess definitely got to ask you. Madness and now media day, and this women's team is picked 13th according to the media in the SEC. But your thoughts on the kind of team they're going to have, and got some returners coming back, and what can we look for? Your thoughts on what they've got?
Yeah, this is tough because this is a make or break year, I think, for Kyra Elzy and with this team, and this will be the last couple of years. It's sort of there's been some unknowns, and you aren't really sure. So this is a team that only won 2 games in the SEC last year, and I don't know if they've brought in what they need or what it will take to get past winning many more games than that. I hope so. I mean, like they brought in like a Brooklyn Miles, who's a Kentucky kid, a Miss Kentucky basketball, who's at Tennessee, wasn't playing a ton there. And so they brought her in here, which I think is great because Maddie Shear is their point guard, needs some help at that point guard position because, Maddie is certainly good, even in that off guard position, can even play a 3 if she wants to. I mean, Maddie's talented enough to play anywhere on, outside the 3-point line. So, but definitely needs some help there. They need some defensive help on the perimeter. So I think Brooklyn brings that, no question about that. But, this is Kentucky women's basketball has notoriously, even under Matthew Mitchell, never really had a really strong post presence. They would have one. Right. I mean, like you have to go back to Victoria Dunlap and Evelyn Akator and players like that. They were incredibly athletic. They were fast, but they were never big. I mean, they were never tall. They were, Victoria is about 6'1", 6'2". That's about Evelyn. I think maybe even been listed taller than what she really was. Aren't they always are? But and they both had great careers at Kentucky, and they were excellent players, at Kentucky. But in terms of having Analia Boston or a player like that, like what South Carolina has, where you really have a true post presence offensively and defensively, Kentucky just hasn't had it. That they've got a little bit. They've got some size now, but they're young. I mean, the size that they're bringing in is young. So I tend to believe this could be a very tough year for them again. And I hate that for a player like Maddie Shear. You've got 3 Miss Basketballs on this team for the state of Kentucky, and Amia Jenkins is the other one from Anderson County, and along with Maddie. So that's a situation where you'd love to see those kids. You want to see Kentucky kids do well and play well and have a good season. And especially for Maddie, she's a senior. I would love that for her. And I love her game. I absolutely love.
Yeah, she's fun to watch.
Yeah, she is. And I love her game. And I know she was disappointed with last season and how that went. Anybody would be, when she made that transfer in. But it will be tough. I mean, the SEC, no question, is incredibly tough every single year. They always are. Other conferences, I think, have elevated their play as a result of the SEC kind of, pushing the envelope a little bit. But it's going to be tough, guys. I mean, it is. It's going to be a really, really hard season for them, I think. And plus, you're not playing. There is no Memorial Coliseum this year, right? So, they play at Rupp. They'll play at Transy. They play a game or 2 at Georgetown College. That's hard. That's just hard. Because Memorial is a great environment. There's no doubt about it.
For sure.
Great environment. Game. It gets loud. It doesn't even have to be full for it to be loud. So
when Ryan was here, a couple of the games that I went to, like those were as good as atmospheres as you're gonna get in a small venue. I mean, it was rocking, and they beat who'd they play? I forget. I think it was the year that COVID ended things, but it was A&M at home, and A&M was ranked. I covered that game, and that it was rocking that night. It was like a Thursday night too. It was impressive.
Yes, it doesn't have to be full for it to be loud. Right. And, it's so it'll be interesting to see whether women's basketball fans will go to Rupp, because that's that's a very different environment for them. Sure. Normally they would have a game or 2 that they would host at Rupp. They would have a decent, like a Louisville, they play there. Usually a high profile preseason game.
Tennessee or something.
Conference, but so I just I love the program and I want them to do well, but I think it's going to be tough.
Yep. We're going to see this guy later on, but jumping around the conference a little bit, y'all's thoughts on Shane Beamer's act with this
You know, that
Just
other like it
broken
makes me,
foot. He had to let everybody know about it.
he makes me not annoyed by Dabo Sweeney. Like that's where it's at. Like, and I'm really like I don't know. I've always like when guys come off his phone. Like, look, Shane Beamer put that video out last year, the goofy dancing video that Mark Stoops kind of took a shot at or whatever. But like he does stuff like that, and then you get him after a loss. I'm not the broken foot's just silliness, but the thing with me that kills me is the accountability stuff, because I think that does go a long way. Like with Mark Stoops, you never have to question accountability after a loss, in my opinion. And I think that goes a long way with us reporters. It goes a long way with the fans to a certain extent. I think that's why some of the fans have been really patient with how things are going, because he has been so accountable and outright. And I think that's why they get mad at Cal more, because he's not too accountable. But with Beamer, you looked at the comments he made after the first game against UNC with the chain gain and the hot dog crew being late and that slowing their momentum at half. And then, kind of throwing out how, after this loss to Florida, how the coaching staff had all these perfect, great calls, defensively calling blitzes, and it was all the players' fault when like they have two guys who were freshman All-Americans in their defensive backfield last year, but the defensive backfield, they're literally the 133rd ranked pass defense, and clearly there's a scheme issue because there is talent. So like, I don't know, the non-accountability stuff with Shane always gets me. And then to kind of laugh off that broken foot and make a joke of it when you're 2-4, like I was reading through some of the Twitter comments with Gamecock fans, and they're not too happy about it. And I think, if this wouldn't be happy about it. So I don't know, not a big Shane Beamer guy, but look, he's had a pretty good start to his tenure there. This year's kind of been a little bit of a step back.
I think he's one of those guys that, we all hear him, that you'll hear, whether you're listening to an entire press conference or post-game, pre-game interview, whatever it is, or you just happen to catch a snippet of it where you're watching and you go, wait, what did he say? What did he say? I feel like I do that a lot. Like, wait, what? And
all the time.
I just need to go back and listen to it again and go, yeah, he really, okay, he said that. Like, he put that out, whatever. I mean, so it does start to have sort of a hokey kind of feel to it a little bit for me, where I'm like, okay. And the kids, they use the term cringy these days, right? It's cringy for me, where I'm like,
yeah,
I don't know, don't say that.
Yeah.
I will tell you all this funny story, just because I think about like, as a coach, being frustrated and actually hurting yourself happens, right? Because these coaches, they kind of lose it a little bit. And so I played for a Hall of Fame coach at Campbellsville University, Donna Wise, one of the best in the business to ever do it at any level, really. And she got so mad at us one day in practice that, and I don't even think we were doing anything that bad. To be honest with you, I don't think we were that terrible. We were pretty good back when I played. But anyway, she got mad at us about something, and she had her wedding band on her right, on her hand, her left hand, and she slammed it down on the scores table to yell at us about something. And when she did it so hard and at just the right spot that it actually broke her ring.
Oh no!
Now her finger is caught in between. So she never said another word. She just walks out. She just leaves and walks out. Because literally, she's gonna have to go. Like, her finger's gonna have to be amputated if she doesn't get this ring off. And we're all like, golly, she's that mad at us and she's freaking walking out of practice. My God, like, we're not that bad, are we? And then none of us found out until later that, she had actually had to go to the hospital to get the ring, or go somewhere to get the ring cut off of her finger. So that, So it happens. Coaches lose their minds, but
she didn't do a press. She didn't do a press conference and say, well, I hit something that I shouldn't have.
No.
No. And I think the thing that,
no. She never said another word about it. Not one word.
She didn't go on Feinbaum and tell America about it.
She did not.
The thing with press conferences too is I always appreciate any coach that's kind of like the same after a win or a loss, or coming off a win or a loss, and that's something I respect for the most part with Stoops. I mean, Stoops will joke after wins more than he will after a loss, but he usually has the same tone, the same, he's very here and there. Like, as a Giants fan right now, they're having a terrible year. The Brian Dable I listened to after they lose is the same guy when they were winning last year mid playoffs. Like, I always appreciate that. So with Shane Beamer, it's just such a 180. Like, it's not even close after a win and a loss. Like, there's not even that balance. You could be happier and more upbeat after a win, fine. But when you're so like a totally different person, like that's where there's an issue with me, and I think that's going to catch up to them, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Speaking of your Giants, I mean, it's a long season. I'll get it. I'm not trying to rub your face in it, but
that's all good.
You had to.
Well, I don't know. Maybe that ship has sailed.
I was going to say.
I wish it was something else talking about that.
Yeah.
I was going to say you had to laugh, but maybe you didn't. Maybe a non-Giants fan did, but when David Pugh in his intro says I'm straight off the couch. Yeah.
No, that was funny. And the game, look, they should have won that game twice over. So I'm not but no, that was really funny. And that was good.
But then, on the flip side, as a Giants fan, how do you feel when they literally, signed your left tackle off the couch? I mean, that can't be that.
Well, I was just super impressed with him because he's not a tackle; he's a guard. He starts the game at left guard. Then the guy who's actually a guard that was having to play left tackle because our left tackle's is hurt, gets hurt. So then they have to move Pugh out to left tackle. And outside like the first series he was there, played a really good game, and they were at the 1 yard line. And that game was just. It broke my heart at the end. That was a game I went into like they're going to get killed. Like, I'm sorry anyone has to watch this. And then they're sitting at the 1 yard line and, twice. And, I'm more mad about the first half one because that's preventable. But, the one at the end of the game, it was a holding. They should have had another chance.
Oh, yeah.
That's either here nor there.
So, Christy, you're going to get to enjoy a bye week and maybe catch your breath this weekend. But when y'all reconvene,
sorry, did you say catch your breath? Is that what you said?
I'm sorry.
I got kids.
I thought this was going to be a bye week for the media, but no, we have to go up to northern Kentucky for the blue and white.
Of course you do.
Instead of going 10 minutes away from my apartment and go to Russ.
Yeah, of course you do. No, I will be in St. Louis.
Okay.
With my daughter and her travel softball team. So my daughter and both my son and my daughter play travel softball and baseball. So it's wild in this household. And so my son will be in Atlanta playing baseball, and I'll be with my daughter in St. Louis playing softball. So
like when I text you about coming on, you were in the Hoosier State. You're in Indiana, for a tournament or something then. So
it's awesome. I love it. The fall is a little different for me and a little hard for me because obviously with football for 12 weeks, for 13 weeks, out of the year, it's difficult for me to try to be any help to my own family, but that's okay. We all love it and they love it as well too. And they come to games when they can and when they're here, but the open week has worked out the last several years that always allows me to go with one of the kids to be able to do it. So it comes at a good time for me too. So I enjoy being able to do that. That's how I spend my summers. You ever want to know where I am in the summer? I'm at a park somewhere, sweating, paying too much money for concessions, and wishing I had. Well, usually I don't know. I do have a little something in my cup.
There you go. There you go.
To get you through. That's how you survive it.
Right. Have a little something in your cup and get some toasted ravioli this weekend in St. Louis.
Exactly.
So when you reconvene with Jarm and Dusty, what can everybody look forward to when y'all do the pregame countdown to kickoff for Tennessee and where else can they find you on SEC Network or where else you're doing?
Yeah, so if to listen to Countdown to Kickoff, you can go on ukathletics.com. They carry it there. It's on the UK Football Facebook page. We do a live feed there. And then any radio station in the state of Kentucky that is a UK affiliate will carry us. And then if you've got the iHeartRadio app on your phone, you can listen to us anywhere. But they're so good. These guys will go back and rewatch the game and they'll find little nuances, a lot like, think about when you were talking about Van, that he does that. And these guys will do that as well too. And they'll really find little nuances and find things that, they see that they didn't see the first time around. I think that's the player in them coming out, hitting the film room and really kind of breaking it down. So they'll do a lot of that. Now we'll be able to ask what did they see that went wrong? But then I like to try to have some, we got to stay positive and, we're the home team, we're the UK network. So we definitely stay positive. And so we'll try to bring that back to what did we see that we can build on? and then sometimes these guys, Jeremy will go to practice quite a bit and he'll be able to tell us what he sees at practice. And, as a former player, he's in the building talking to those guys and stuff. So we'll talk a little bit about all that. And then they'll do a great job of getting us ready for Tennessee and what we need to look out for and who we're, who's important for them and, kind of how that'll all go. So we'll really get into some X's and O's about what they saw from, we hate to rehash losses, but at the same time, we want to learn from it. So we want to know what they see and learn from those guys, and they're the best. So,
yeah. Good crew. Y'all do y'all's thing every single Saturday. Always appreciate it and enjoy it. And
good. Thanks for listening. I appreciate it very much.
Absolutely. So safe travels to St. Louis.
Oh, thanks.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Appreciate you hopping on here with AG and myself and holding it down while Jalen Whitlow was out. We'll get him back next week, hopefully. And we'll have another week off. Get to watch some games.
Yeah, that's it.
Tennessee got beat up by Alabama a little bit.
They're killing me with this blue and white game in the middle of the Bama-Tennessee game.
That is hard. That's hard.
They're killing me with that.
It's that that crossover type of year that fans love.
Yeah.
Anybody in the media is like, this is brutal. It's brutal.
I mean, once they play the actual games, like especially the week where they're in the Champions Classic, so I'll be in Chicago, then I'll turn around and go to South Carolina. I'll have energy for that. That's fun to me. But like the blue and white game, an hour and a half away, it's like nope.
Yes. Well, and even I think about games, the women. So I do some work for the SEC network for SEC Plus, and so we've got some games coming up in November, and so there's a TBA game for the women with Tennessee. So now that we know the Tennessee kickoff time, then they'll be setting. So you talk about a wild day there too. So if they play early, then that's got mama up early and out late. I don't know. I'm too old for that. So that'll be a long day right there. That'll be a really long day.
Oh man.
I'm getting old and broke down.
Listen now. Well, we can't thank you enough for hopping on here and
thanks for having me.
Giving insight, knowledge, and I always appreciate it. And so we get through this bye week and look, we got to come out the same way against Tennessee, but the sustaining, we'll see if we learn how to sustain for 60 minutes.
That's it. As long as it's a dub on the other side, that's all that matters.
Exactly.
Now, thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it. It's good talking to you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Christy. Christy Thomas, UK Sports Network, SEC Network, been doing her thing. Campbellsville Hooper, Hall of Famer. So good stuff from her. Oh. Man, hate you got to go up there. I like the fact that it's going.
No,
around
I like it too. I'm just kind of
know.
messing. It's a personal problem. I do like it. I think I'm a little salty. It's not wet. Like if they're gonna do it, I was hoping for Western Kentucky because they did do Eastern last year, and then obviously Western's had some issues with weather that could do some fundraising down there. But it's still a cool opportunity. There's plenty of Kentucky fans up in the northern part of the state. Southern Ohio, so it'll be a cool atmosphere. I'm sure. I've driven through NKU's campus. I've never been in the arena or anything, so I'll enjoy it more once I get there and we get going. But I don't know what we're really going to get to see in this game. I mean, we should see Big Z, I guess, but other than that, there are a lot of questions, man. I mean, at Pro Day, it went down, so I don't know what's up with that. So we'll see.
Typically, historically, it's more basketball than you get at Madness.
Oh, yeah. I don't even – there's no point in covering Madness just because there's not basketball or interviews or anything like that.
Madness is
it's a spectacle.
It became like NBA All-Star Game. And I love the NBA All-Star Game, but now I'm to the point I'm like, oh, come on, let's at least hoop a little bit. But
they need to spice up Madness, man. They really do. And I didn't go this year, but I talked to some of the other media guys and just fans who went, and they're like, man, it was disappointing. Like, I'll be honest, it was disappointing. So, and I get like the main objective of it is to have all these recruits in the building and have them together and all that. So, Kentucky, from a coaching staff perspective, they're doing their job. They're doing Madness right. But from a fan's perspective, I feel like it's not the coaching staff, just the university. They got to figure something out.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And a little baseball real quick. You being a Yankees fan, I got to definitely throw this at you. And me being maybe a petty Braves fan. I don't know, because to me the NL East hatred is the same as the NFC East hatred. You know, I hate the Phillies the same as I hate the Eagles, pretty much.
Yep.
You know, the Nationals, the Mets. You know, we all.
No, I know what you mean.
So,
yeah,
the Phillies, of course, they've knocked us out the past 2 years. They're halfway there to get into the World Series.
Yeah, they're going to get there.
They're dominating Arizona.
Yeah, they're going to get there.
Last night, they just teed off on them. But Kyle Schwarber, well, let me preface it. You look at the NFL's leading passers, you know, and there's my host TB and I were talking about the other day, you know, like Kerry Collins and Matt Ryan are ahead of Johnny Unitas and Joe Montana and stuff like that. Kyle Schwarber tied Reggie Jackson for postseason homers by a left-handed hitter. The numbers do not, you can't put them in the same sentence. You can't impress me by saying, well, he's hit 18 postseason homers like Reggie Jackson has. I hate the Yankees, but Kyle Schwarber is no Reggie Jackson. First of all, you got 15,000 rounds of playoffs. You get a wild card game.
Don't even get me started.
You get an NLDS.
I hate it. I hate it. Everything about it.
Look at all those at bats he's got. He's had way more chances. Yeah. Look, Reggie had to win the East or win the West when he was in Oakland.
It was a 4-team playoff, literally.
Win the pennant in the World Series.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
If he played today, he'd have way more than 18 postseason home runs.
So, yeah, no, I hate the new format, everything about it. My favorite format was the 4 teams where you have a wild card and 3 division winners. That was how I liked it, because I think I didn't like the wild card game because your game shouldn't come down to one season. You play 162. So at least if you're going to have a 6 or a 5, I'll take the 6, because at least it eliminates the 1-game playoff. But the 6, my issue with the 6, and your Braves learned the lesson my Yankees almost did last year, it is an advantage for the teams that played. It really is. Like, these teams have momentum. They're like, okay, we played great. We're moving on. All right. While the Braves, the Dodgers, who's the other team that got knocked right away this year? Baltimore. They're all sitting on their couch and just waiting and anticipating, and nerves are probably building, especially for Baltimore, who's a really young team. Yeah. Like, that's not an advantage, in my opinion. You got to figure a way. If you're going to do it, you just got to figure a way where, there's a clear momentum for the team that just won. And I think last year, I know the Yankees won coming up, but the Braves got bounced and the Dodgers got bounced as well last year. So it hurt. The same thing hurt them last year. The Yankees had their backs against the wall, and they were in Game 5 against Cleveland. So this year was 3 out of 4 the wild card teams getting through. Last year was 2 of the 4. There should be more of a reward for winning. And again, the Braves, they got to be accountable. They can't let that happen. And that sucks. Yeah. And same with the Dodgers. But there's no reason that these 100-win teams, all of them lost. There's something wrong. The Dodgers and Braves were much better than every other team that's still in the playoffs during the regular season. Yeah. And look, the Phillies are a good matchup. But again, something with the format. And I'm not trying to let your Braves fully off the hook. I'm sure you're mad at them too. Yeah. But why is it not the highest seed not playing the lowest seed? The Phillies are the 4 seed. Why are they not going to LA and then you guys getting Arizona? I mean, it'd be one thing if Milwaukee won and you get Philly as the 4, but I don't know. There's a lot that doesn't make sense to me, and I don't like the new format at all. I get the idea of it because you want more fan bases excited and tickets being sold and whatever, but the execution's terrible.
Yeah, because the old days when it was 4 divisions, I didn't care for that because second place team could win 101 games and have nothing to show for it.
Exactly.
Which the Braves did the Giants that way a few years with Barry Bonds and them. But the 2019 Nationals, they come in hot. The Royals in 2014, 2015, you can eke in at 84 and 78, but you're hot because you've been in survival mode for a month and a half to even be there, and so you're gonna.
And 84 wins didn't get you in until the 6. I know the Cardinals won 83 games of the year. They won their division and then won the World Series. Yeah. But 84, the Yankees in 2014, which was Derek Jeter's last year, they missed the playoffs. They won 84. There's no way the Diamond, a credit to what the Diamondbacks did in LA and in Milwaukee, they deserve to be where they're at now. But They won 84 games. Like, they shouldn't even be knocked. I don't know. I hate it. I hate everything. You got me started, Vinny. I hate the format.
I couldn't help it. I couldn't.
No, I'm glad you did. No, it's good.
Look,
I've been waiting to air this out.
I hate the Yankees, but I'm railing against Kyle Schwarber because he just tied Yankee legend Reggie Jackson.
Look, Jose Altuve just broke, or not Altuve, Correa, he just broke a big record. That was Derek Jeter's. I'm going to get you the record that he broke. But like Carlos Correa ain't doing even. I know Derek Jeter played during the 14 format, but you know Correa is playing all these extra playoff games as well. I don't know. It drives me nuts, and I hope they find a way to fix it. I don't think they will. Yeah. So he moved ahead of Derek Jeter and David Ortiz on the all-time postseason RBI list.
Oh,
and like, there's no way that should happen that fast. And I know he's been in the playoffs like every year with Houston, but still, I don't know. I hate the new format. I really don't like any of the I don't have anything against Arizona or Texas, but like, I hate Philly. I hate Houston. So it kind of, and that's, I know Texas was up 2-0, but Houston's winning tonight. It's going to be Philly. It's going to be Philly, Houston again, and I'm probably going to root for Philly. I like the Phillies. The thing is, I like the Phillies players this year. But like that Bryce Harper, I love Bryce Harper. I know he kind of killed you guys, but I do love his game. I wanted him to be a Yankee. I like a lot of their players, but like the city of Philadelphia, not the city, just the fans of Philadelphia. They're spoiled right now. They don't need this. They don't need this.
That's it. So yeah, Houston's getting back into this. They're gonna make it a series.
They're gonna weasel their way into the World Series. It's gonna be them in Philly, and we'll see what happens there. That's my guess. I mean, hopefully I'm wrong. Hopefully Texas finds a way. But
I think maybe
Arizona was cute. That series is already over.
Absolutely. So good stuff, man.
Absolutely.
Bye week, and we'll see what everybody else is doing, and then get back to Tennessee next week and see what they do if they're coming in off a loss or whatever down in Tuscaloosa, and get Jalen Whitlow back hopefully, and we'll do what we do again. Thanks again to Christy Thomas. She always does great stuff, and appreciate everybody takes the time to listen. We're on here on YouTube, got more and more people subscribing on Twitter as well, so y'all can watch us or listen. Believe.com, wherever you get your podcast, will be there as well. And appreciate everybody that's See a Blue. They always put it up on the site. All the followers on Facebook and Twitter get to see it on there as well. So appreciate you at the Cat's Paws, man. And you'll have real basketball soon. So I'm sorry about this exhibition you got to go to. You still got George.
Maybe it'll end up worth it. Who knows? But yeah, I just wish it wasn't in the middle of a football Saturday that I'm off. That's all. Last year was a wedding on a football Saturday. It was that was fun, so it was all right. But
and when you get married, man, don't get married in football season at all.
Never.
Come on.
No.
My anniversary is in August. It's barely even preseason football.
No, we've already had this conversation. When that time comes, it will be in the summer.
Yes,
that
sir.
is a non-negotiable.
Absolutely, man. I wasn't having people coming in a fall Saturday. I'm not ruining people's.
I already
see this game because
I already have to. At least it's not fall, but I already have to miss the Alabama basketball game at home this year for a wedding. And it's my girlfriend's cousin, and their moms are twins. So like it's a cousin that's almost like a sister. So I'll be there. I'll be excited to be there when I'm there. But I am a little salty. I'm missing that Bama game.
I understand. We've all been there and had to be somewhere and be happy and enjoy being there, but hate what we're missing.
It'll be right here, and I'll be texting everyone that's covering the game to get a vibe check. So
absolutely. Well, enjoy your weekend, man.
You too, my man.
For Aaron Gershon and his Vinny Hardy, thanks again to Christy Thomas for another episode of Believe in Kentucky, and we'll catch y'all on the next episode.